Well, so thank God it's Friday. Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. You can catch us on digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 144. This is Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, transport fares to go up again by 20% as the Ghana Private Road Transport Union points to a hike in fuel prices as a major factor accounting for the latest decision. We'll bring you details shortly. Over 7,000 ex-convicts are back in jail, raising concerns over national security and congestion in Ghana's prison facilities. This afternoon, on The Pulse as well, we'll hear from the Ghana Prison Service as they join us live to have a conversation on this. And the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association is pushing for the speedy passage of the broadcasting bill as it argues that the proposed legislation is critical in ensuring safety of journalists across the country.
Well, we have a specific size of advertising revenue, which forms the basic source of revenue for a lot of broadcasting entities in this country.
We have that coming up right here on The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogah. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. We're streaming live on YouTube and all of our social media handles at JoyNews on TV. Tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sogah. Stay with us. This is The Pulse. Well, so here's what we need to tell you. The Ghana Prison Service has disclosed that over 7,000 ex-convicts are back in jail, raising concerns over national security and congestion in Ghana's prison facilities. Now, official data released by the service earlier today indicates that some 1,111 ex-convicts returned to prison in just 2020 alone. Also, the demographics is indicating to us that more young people between the ages of 12 and 35 are filling up our prisons. So here's a breakdown for you in terms of the figures. There you have it on your screens. Number of persons who have been convicted in all in 5 years. You have 38,589. That's the total number that we're dealing with. But if it comes to the age groupings, as you see on your screens right now, you have those between 18 to 35 years being 31,018. We have those ranging from 36 to 47 years, being 4,448. Then, for those who are ranging somewhere between 46 to 55 years, we have 1,559. And then the figure goes on. We have those who are within 46 to 55, as I indicated earlier, representing 1,559. And 56 to 65 years is 715. The number decreases when you move to the age bracket of 66 to 69 years. And then for those within the 70 range is 168. But then there is more for us to indicate to you. If you look at the convicted criminals in terms of the focus on the youth population, particularly those between the ages of 18 and 35, what you have now is that 80.3% of all persons convicted between 2015 and 2020 are mostly the youth. And that's a staggering figure that we're looking at right here on The Pulse. The fact that more and more young people are going to jail. But what more do you need to know? So in terms of the crimes that are being committed, you have, for instance, stealing, defilement, robbery, and assault. These are the major crimes that ends a lot of people in jail. But then in terms of the ranking, and we'll show that to you shortly, let's bring that to you shortly. Defilement appears to be one of the major issues that is also topping the chart as well. So these are some of the major crimes that you have between 2015 and 2020. But there's more that you also need to know about this. The facts that this is, of course, having an impact on the number of persons that we have in the prison cells. Already, the Ghana Prison Service has been complaining about congestion in their facilities. So in what ways can we actually put an end to the phenomenon, particularly as there are concerns about implications on national security and also the ability of the prison service to discharge its duties? Fortunately, we've been joined by Superintendent Karija Chief Superintendent Karija Chem. I'm apologizing for that. But Chief Superintendent Karija Chem, who is the Director of Public Affairs for the Ghana Prison Service. He's helping us understand the figures that they've released to us and what it is that they're doing to put an end to all of this. You're welcome, sir, to the program.
Thank you, ma'am.
The figures are really staggering. The fact that more and more young people are ending up in jail. Are you watching these figures closely as well? And what do you believe may be accounting for what we're seeing happening in our country?
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Right.
First of all, let me say that you said a figure we released today. I want to put on record that these figures were released in the Finder newspaper
right.
under the Right Information Act. Okay, so it's not as if we put it out there to set any agenda.
Right,
for the
but it's still
service.
coming from you anyway.
All right,
yes,
so that's
right.
fine.
Just to put it in context,
Okay,
I believe.
great.
Right.
So regarding the young persons
Right.
in our custody,
Right.
I would say that the service has not conducted any scientific study to come up with any scientific findings. But it's not too difficult for us to hazard guesses. Lack of proper parental care and control,
Right.
broken homes, unemployment, what have you. These days, it's not like those days where at least a mother will be at home or a father will be at home. These days we have working parents. So many of us are running after our jobs and probably not taking good care of our kids. So when we interact with our inmates, these are some of the issues that come across.
Interesting. But then what's striking is that we have over 7,000 inmates going back to jail. The expectation is that once you are from the prison facilities, you are then reformed, not necessarily kept behind bars and nothing is being done for you. The expectation is that the Ghana Prison Service will reform you so you are able to integrate into society. How come that we're still seeing a flow back of these figures moving back into our prison facilities?
Blessed, I think it's important to state that this is over a 5-year period.
5-year period, right.
Okay, good. Yes, the NRC for the 6th of 1972, which spells out mandate, says that it shall be the duty of the Ghana Prison Service to ensure the safe custody
Right.
and welfare of prisoners,
Right.
and whenever practicable, undertake their reformation and rehabilitation. So reformation and rehabilitation is part of our mandate.
It's also part of the mandate.
Yes.
That's right.
So, and we do a lot to reform our inmates. Now, you have figures of those who have returned to our custody. What we are not telling the public is those we have discharged.
Okay.
For instance, if you take 2020, which you put out right, we have a total of 7,905 inmates discharged or released from prison in 2019.
7,905
discharged in
Right.
2019.
Right.
Now, if 1,011 had returned to prison and without admitting that these figures were from just the previous year, then I think we should be juxtaposing the figure that had returned to the figure that had been released. I'm saying this because most of the time the mistake we make is that once we say people have returned to prison, then it means that the prison service is not doing anything to reform at all. Now,
but it's not the case.
It's not the case. Going by that alone, figure alone, if we say that over 1,000 have returned out of 7,000, then it means that those who have not returned are more than those who returned. So if we want to say that those who have returned means that the prison service is not reforming anybody at all, then we can also say that those who have not returned means they have been reformed. Do you get my argument?
Right.
So I think it's important to put the figures in context. We do a lot to reform our inmates, but when it comes to people who go out of prison and come back, there are several factors.
Okay.
One could be, yes, the person has not been properly reformed and therefore he has come back.
Right.
Two, when he got out of our custody, how was he received at home? Many of our ex-convicts face societal rejection.
Oh, there's stigma.
Stigma is still there.
It's a reality.
But I'll give you a typical example.
Right.
There was this guy who ran back to us. He was working with a certain woman who employed him after discharge from prison. Right. Then a friend of that woman came and saw him. They said, "Oh, I just watched this boy on this show. He's a prisoner." That's all. The guy lost his job. So if this guy doesn't find anything to do at all, what do you think he's going to do?
They may go back to the activity.
Yes. So the stigma, the societal rejection is also very, very key.
Right.
People come to prisons, get well reformed. When they go out, that is where the real challenge is. So for us, if you are in a custody and you say, I'm reformed, or we have seen the signs that we have reformed, the text of it actually is when you go out.
Not when you are
No.
But
you can see the signs.
But here's the case that if you have an inflow back of 7,000, already the prison facilities are, as you've indicated to us some days back, is being congested. So if you have a return of these numbers, that's not helping the situation across the country.
Yes, it's not helping. And that is why, as a nation, we need to pay more attention to our prison system. For instance, it says that it shall be the duty of the Ghana Prison Service to ensure the safe custody and welfare of prisoners, and whenever practicable, undertake their information. The question is it practicable now? And what are we doing as a nation to ensure that the prison service is actually able to reform and rehabilitate our inmates? We may do the reformation. What about the rehabilitation? Reintegration is key to anybody's rehabilitation. If you have given him all the skills, he comes out with a skill, and yet he cannot use that skill because the environment is not conducive. The environment is not favorable. He's not going to stay there. I tell you, there are instances where people are released, they go, and practically walk back and say, I want to be in prison.
Prisoners walk back
I'm
to
telling
say,
you,
I don't want to go.
Yes. There are instances where you tell an inmate of his impending release and he begins to cry because he doesn't know what he's going to face out there. So these are some of the factors. I mean, we may be blaming only the Ghana Prison Service, but we are all part of it.
But if you look at the employment requirement for some organizations, they check your criminal record, for instance.
Exactly.
Are you then suggesting that perhaps it's time for us to take a second look at that?
I think so. I think that is one thing, or one law we need to take a second look at. Because, somebody, for instance, who was working somewhere, earning a living, looking after his family, he goes to jail 5, 10, 7, 15 years' time. He comes back, he has lost his job. If the family is not supporting him, what are we expecting him to do? And yet, we have a law which says that you cannot be employed just because you have been in prison. So whatever skill the person might have come out with will be useless. So I think, yes, I will agree with you that probably it's time we took a second look at.
But what you do within your facilities, and help me if I'm wrong, is that you also give skills to some of these inmates.
Yes.
Is it that these skills are not adequate enough in building them, making them entrepreneurs on their own when they walk out of your prisons?
Some are enough. But when they go, what do they start with? Startup capitals. The person may have the skill, but he doesn't have anything to start with. Okay? I would agree with you, yes, we need to do more to reform and rehabilitate our inmates. Yes, we need to do more as a nation. The appropriate structure that need to be in place might be put in place. As we speak, there are still prison facilities that are not purpose-built, meaning that they were not initially built for the holding of prisoners in the first place.
You have some facilities
like that?
yes,
we still have facilities.
Is it safe, security-wise, putting out some of these facilities?
Oh, yes. The thing is that we have two types of security.
Okay.
The dynamic security and the static security.
Okay.
The static is the physical structures, and then the dynamic is made up of the personnel who have to use these structures in ensuring security. Right. And so when you know that your static is defective, then you need to up your game in the dynamic.
So you have the personnel, but then in terms of the static, that's where there seems to be a challenge.
Yes.
So, for instance, which of the facilities across the countries are you having challenges with in terms of the congestion and other associated issues?
In terms of congestion, I would say Insalom is the key because it was built to hold 851 inmates. As we speak, we have close to 3,000 inmates there. So it's hugely congested.
That's more than 100%.
Yeah.
800
and it's one of the safest facilities we can hold our inmates into because it's one of the purpose-built, prison facilities. And so no matter what you do, you keep having the numbers in there.
The situation must be very terrible in there, isn't it?
Well, but we are managing.
Are you not being diplomatic about it? The fact that, well, you work with the prison service, so you're not painting a true picture of what's happening. And just on your screens and behind us, you can see excerpts of that documentary by said Kwame Boateng, where, I mean, just take a look at what's on your screens now. People packed like sardines, I'm sorry for using that word, but that's the reality in our prisons. The point has also been made about non-custodial sentencing. And Chief Superintendent, we may have to talk about that as well. The concern that people still plantain, or let me be lay about it. And you've heard such examples as well. And then they go to jail for 10, 15 years or more. Well, depending on the case. But there are people who commit bigger crimes and may not end up even in jail. So that has been one of the concerns as well, that we need to review our sentencing regime. What's your take on that, really?
Yeah, thank you very much. The Ghana Prison Service has noticed this long ago, and so we from our own corner, have come up with a new bill which has a provision for some non-custodial sentences, which is going through the review process. It's gone to Attorney General, it's back to us. We'll send it back. We'll be asked to do a few things. And so there's a bill on that. And I want to agree with you that, yes, that is one thing that will go a long way in reducing the congestion of our prisoners. Because, of course, as you mentioned, some of the offenses may not necessarily have to be kept in, send people to prison, I should say.
Chief, just stay with me a while longer. Let's also bring in Dr. Adam Bona. He's a security analyst, so he understands quite a lot of things happening in this regard. Thank you, Doc, for your time. So here we are, and we're hearing from the Ghana Prison Service, giving us, first of all, statistics on younger people committing more crimes and going to jail. And then we have ex-convicts running back to these facilities. What's your take, first of all, on the statistics that we're getting from the prison service?
Yeah, good afternoon, and good afternoon to my brother, Chief Superintendent Courage, Chip. I must say, despite the challenges, the Ghana Prison Service officers there himself and the team, they've done quite well with regards to ensuring that those who are in their custody, we don't often hear people escaping left and right, and also doing their best, despite the meager resources we have always extended to them. Especially, you take an inmate who is giving 1 CD 80 pesos. 1 CD 80 pesos cannot feed an infant in this country. And, you know, infants, we don't have children in our prison. When I say children, I mean almost everybody is old enough to eat a bowl of kinky. How much is a bowl of kinky? Don't talk about fish and pepper and all that. And so we give them 1 CD 80 pesos. The facilities are really nothing to write home about. And so I say that if you go into a country and you want to know how well that country is dealing with its human rights, visit their prisons. That will tell you how well they are dealing with their human rights. And what you are seeing in most of these prison facilities is, I say, a tip of the iceberg. No one is talking about the prison warden. Most prison wardens have been inflicted with, you know, skin diseases, all forms of illness, and their only reason for being there is to probably provide a service that would ensure that myself and you, when we sleep. But it looks like not much, even though I would say some resources have gone there. If you look at averagely what is going in there, or what is on budget and what is extended to them, is really nothing to write home about. So I would say that, blessed. As far as I'm concerned, we have a big challenge before us. Some of us have been doing this over the years, following up on this together with yourself. You know, so your colleague who, you know, have been doing this reporting. Some of us have been following and, you know, speaking to Courage and his people and all that. But unfortunately, not much has changed. And so as far as I'm concerned, this issue about, you know, between 12 to 35-year-olds going to prisons is something that, for me, we as a nation, it looks like we haven't really turned our attention to the plight of the prison officers themselves and the people they are supposed to be ensuring that they are in safe custody. Because if you want to take care of prisoners well, then you must take care of those who are taking care of the prisoners. And so I look at it from various dimensions, and usually we only talk about the prisoners. But I will tell you that it's multifaceted when it comes to prison issues in this country. He talked about, I heard him speak about Insaum.
Right.
Insaum is one of the oldest prisons, we have in this country, one of the safest, I think the safest or so. But the truth is that we should have, rehabilitated it, ensured that they had, proper medical facilities. They had, machinery workshops. They have what it takes to train inmates so that they don't have to go and come back. And I tell you that I have spoken to prisoners, ex-convicts, and they will tell you that they feel, they don't feel wanted when they are released. So sometimes they intentionally will commit crimes. They just to be sent back to prison. And sometimes they will tell you the prison they even want to go to. It means we have a country on our, we have a challenge on our hand. I would have wished that this issue is dealt with holistically going forward.
That's a very serious issue you're raising, but then many expected bringing in the aspect of the sentencing regime, the fact that we find alternatives in terms of criminal prosecution. What's your take on that, really? The fact that when people commit less intense crimes, we could find some other forms of punishments for them and not necessarily choke the pre-existing facilities which are already congested.
Well, I must admit, you see, it's multifaceted. And this afternoon when I spoke to Joy FM, your sister station, midday, I raised it. Why must you sentence somebody who is stealing a bunch of plantain to prison, to a fine of, let's say, 600 cedis, or you go to prison for 3 months? Why do you do that? Give the person some community sentencing, let the person go and remove baller, clean, do other manual, don't keep them in custody, look for money to feed them. And so we have somewhat, I call it some rigid, I call them a criminal justice delivery system. And the criminal justice delivery system is not just with the prisons, the wardens and the inmates that they keep, but it starts from the day the guy is arrested. I tell you that police officers commit swoops. Listen, it's not just, they commit swoops. They undertake swoops. And when these people are sometimes arrested, you find yourself at the wrong place at the wrong time. They bundle all of you together. They are bundled into court. Some of them don't even understand the language in which, they ask, okay, we'll remand them into prison custody. The next day, the police officer who is supposed to be in charge, or the crime officer, has been transferred. They take them to Insaum, take them wherever they take them, and they are there. And the prison officers cannot, on their own, take them to court. So mine is that the non-custodial sentence is very, very important. I tell you what, if you go into most of these people, if you go into their case files, you will notice that most of them are repeat offenders that if we had attempted to be a bit, a bit circumspect, a bit more, understanding with regards to maybe committed this a misdemeanor, or maybe, something that is not first degree, and we gave this person maybe some community sentencing, go and clean, go and weed, go and do this. We will not pack our prisons with what
I see. I'll
it?
come back to you to find out if this is the time to start a major exercise to decongest our prison facilities. But let me bring in Chief Superintendent Kari Jachem as well. You've heard the points that he raised. For instance, the issue about feeding even within the prison facilities. It appears you're giving 1 cedi 80 pesos. That's the allocation per an inmate for a day.
Yes.
But
that is true,
sufficient,
and you will agree with me that is woefully inadequate.
Right.
And I tell you, but for our agricultural activities, the situation would have been more serious. And because we undertake agricultural activities, we are able to supplement what is provided by government. And that is what is saving the situation, as we speak. But it's still a big, big challenge.
So 1 cedi 80 pesos is supposed to cater for an inmate for
3 square meals.
Whoa.
Yes, it's per day.
And for how long has this situation persisted?
I think the last time we had a review was in 2012. That was when we had a review.
So from 2012,
it was 60 pesos,
right.
and it was increased to 1 Ghana cedi, 80 pesos.
Would there be a need for an increment anyway at this?
Oh yes, there is a need, and the Prince administration, together with the Prince Service Council, have been engaging government, and the discussions are quite positive. So we're hoping that not too from now, we may see some reviews.
Let's see about that, and let's see how that goes. But there's also one critical point Dr. Bona raises about even the safety of your personnel as well. Due to the congestion, it appears that many of your servicemen are also being infected, as he's pointing out. Is that the case for some of the prison
some
wardens?
Infections are contagious.
Right.
For instance, skin infections, like for instance. Some of our officers get infected, yes. For instance, when COVID-19 came, some of our officers in line of duty also got infected because they got in touch with inmates who were infected. So yes, these challenges are there, yeah. And
since you're talking about COVID, that's perhaps one of the main reasons why we should be learning the lessons from such a pandemic and other, infectious diseases, and to space out our prison facilities. Have you picked up any lessons from there, and what are some of the changes that we're seeing within your facility nowadays? How is the story changing within?
Well, one thing we have learned from the experience of COVID, which is positive, is the fact that our hygiene regime has changed. A lot of our inmates are now more aware of the environment and how to keep the environment clean and how to keep themselves clean. That is one that is positive. And then the expansion you talked about is also very important. I think that we need to modernize many of our prisons and build new ones. And I must say that what the Church of Pentecost, for instance, has come on board to do is the way to go. The Church of Pentecost has come on board to build 5 camp prisons, one of which has been commissioned at Ejura and is doing quite well. The second one is complete, almost complete, waiting commissioning for operation in Insawam. And I think these are some of the modern facilities we need to put in place as a nation for our prison system.
What's a modern prison requirement? What's this supposed to look like? And as compared to what we have in terms of pre-existing facilities across the country?
I am not an architect, but I'll tell you that if we want to talk of a modern prison, which is geared towards reforming and rehabilitating inmates, the one thing that is key are the workshops, the training workshops, where we can have workshops that are properly equipped with tools and equipment that will help in training inmates. Many of them, as we use now, are makeshift structures, and the tools and equipment are obsolete, that are not very good and very effective in training the inmates very well. So if we want to talk of modern prisons that should have adequate training and reformation facilities, then we need to be looking at some of these structures being put in place.
In the meantime, I presume that, yes, you may not have the structures itself readily available in, say, a year or two, but obviously help from other NGOs and benevolent persons may be very much welcome at this point.
Very much welcome. And I might say that quite a number of them have been very helpful over the years. One thing I feel also to mention is the intervention by our partners who gave us donations. So the donations we receive, plus the prison agricultural activities, that is what is helping us, manage the situation in the face of the woefully inadequate ration that we receive. And so, yes, other partners coming on board to support the prison system, or partner government to support the prison, for instance, like the Church of Pentecost is doing, is very, very much welcome.
Just within yourselves, as maybe leadership of the Ghana Prison Service, are you considering a decongestion exercise? And what approach will that take?
Well, yes, we have been considering that and taking some steps. You know about the Justice for All program, which was done in partnership with the Judicial Service, which, first of all, seeks to give justice to whom justice has been denied, because it says justice delayed, justice denied. And then, as part of it, we have inmates who get bailed finally, those who get convicted finally, those who get freed entirely. And so the resultant effect is that it reduces the congestion in our prisons. Then 2, the expansion project, for instance, has mentioned, like the Church of Pentecost is doing, government has also started a remand facility in Sawam. It's an 800 capacity facility. And so if that is also completed and put into operation, reduce the remand numbers also in a custody, because the remands will be on their own as well. And then looking at non-custodial sentences, I think these are some of the measures we can take as a nation to reduce the congestion in our prisons.
Dr. Bona, let me bring you in. The concern about an imminent decongestion. Some say it should happen right away. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. When should we carry out that massive exercise? And perhaps this may start from the ministerial level. When should that be sanctioned by government for us to decongest our prisons?
Well, I think decongestion is very important, and it should happen immediately, but it needs to be done carefully so that we don't end up freeing people who could come back quickly into the society and harm society. So what my recommendation would be, just like my brother Courage Achem, Chief Superintendent Courage Achem said, there's a bill that is going through the process and, hopefully would be in Parliament soon. Let's quicken that so that if the point of entry, we are able to stop piling up the numbers whilst we deal with the existing numbers. That would be the way to go. But immediately, like he said, some of the facilities are under construction. And so I would want to see those who probably didn't warrant I will call them some hungry, offender is going to steal some plantain. You give him 3 months or a month or something. Some of these people, we can look at those facilities that are under construction, nearing completion, put them into habitable way, and then maybe move them there as soon as possible to be able to decongest, the existing facilities, whilst we get the bill passed into law quickly, and then put in the structures to ensure that it's not every offender who must end up in jail. And, there's a thin line dividing our freedom and, custodial, sentence, because then one moment you are free, the next moment you are gone. So we should all be concerned about what the prevailing situation at our, prisons facilities. For me, it is despicable, even though something is being done. I think the process of doing it is a bit slow. Some resources has gone in there. And also even the prison warden inmate ratio is too low. I don't know whether my brother Courage mentioned it to you. The prison warden inmate ratio, there is an international standard. And we are doing about, 10 times that number. Correct me, Courage, if I'm wrong.
Is that the case?
There has been a remarkable improvement. Government is aware of this, and so quite a number of recruitments have been done in recent times, and so the situation is improving, I might say.
Dr. Bona,
Yes.
that's a response on this.
Yeah, so I am aware the situation is improving, and so because I know last year they had 2,000 more personnel to be recruited. Some of us advocated the number should have been pushed to 5,000, whilst you give the police 10,000 and then the fire and the rest. Because the truth is that these are the people who must ensure that we are safe. And so if the numbers are small, then you realize that they get tired. Sometimes care of the prisoner becomes a problem, because then when you are tired, obviously is the prison, the prisoner who suffers. So as far as I'm concerned, going back to your question again, I would advocate that let's look at a way to deal with it. We have facilities under construction. What can we do quickly to make them habitable, to move those who would not cause any harm to society, move them there. Whilst we pass this bill into law, ensure that we are not sending everybody who and it's happening as we speak today. If you are taken to court and you stole some plantain, the investigator says, okay, or you are sentenced. You have to come and pay a fine of 600. Some people can't pay. If you can't pay, you have to go to prison. What are the other alternatives? So I think that we need to deal with this situation as soon as possible. And I mentioned the plight of the prison officer. We have statistics that is talking about prison inmates between 12 or so to 35. What about the plight of the prison officers? I am also interested in it. And as as someone who plays a key role in the area, some of us have been talking about trying to see what can be done to ensure that they are properly housed, their welfare is good. Vehicles, I know some vehicles, I know it has some improvement has come in, but some of us want to see more improvement coming the way of prison officers. How many times do we talk about prisoners and prison officers? Occasionally, when some statistics are thrown into the public domain, we get to talk about it. So sometimes I call them the forgotten important segment of our security sector, because we only talk about them when statistics come out. If not, and also in many countries, when there is a revolt, when there is prisoners are revolting, but we hardly hear that in this country. Or when there is a jailbreak like we've seen in Nigeria. Fortunately, our prison officers have ensured that over the years, our prisons have been safe. So we hardly get to discuss them. But I think that let's not leave this conversation here. We should carry on periodically, engage those who are supposed to deal with this issue, engage the general public, ensure that, because Courage knows that some of the things, he speaks boldly, but some of the things, some of us probably can say them. You put it the way it's supposed to be put.
And I'm grateful that you're pointing all of that out for us. I would have to leave the conversation here. Thank you so much, Dr. Adam Bona. Let's wrap up with Chief Superintendent Karaja Chem. So what's your final word on this, and what's your appeal also to stakeholders involved in dealing or tackling this challenge that you have at the prison facilities?
All right. Thank you very much. First of all, we are talking about people leaving prison and coming back to prison. And as I mentioned earlier, one key factor is the stigma. I just would want to appeal to all of us that when our own people go to prison and come back, let's try to receive them. If we make their resettlement, conducive enough, they will be able to resettle and not go back into crime and find themselves in prison again.
I'm grateful that you've been able to join us, but we're still focusing also on national security, because the National Security Ministry has identified the growing trend of accidents on the roads as a serious security threat to the growth of the country. The ministry says if the situation is not stopped immediately, it may lead to a civil unrest. The letter has been written to that effect and copied the Transport Ministry, directing it to immediately put in place a joint force to deal with the situation. Let's take a listen to David Osafo-Adonte, who is the Acting Director General of the National Road Safety Authority.
In the past years, I've not seen a decline, and we are worried. Our objective is to have a reduction of our deaths, our injuries, and the crashes. Now, we know the problems, and so we have always put in place systems and mechanisms to minimize these deaths. Unfortunately, we are not seeing them coming down until this year. That if you compare the first quarter of 2022 to the first quarter of 2021, we see some reduction. We have made some savings of 1.92% in terms of the crashes, 4.17% in terms of the injuries, and 4.8% in terms of the deaths. I think the concern raised by national security is for 2M Express transport services, OA transport services, and the GPRTU, especially relating to this their new Toyota Hiace buses. They are misbehaving, and indeed we agree with them. So we have dealt with the situation at this level. We'll continue from here, monitor them, and see if they are complying with these rules and regulations. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and issue our mechanisms for sanctions. We are the regulators. We are giving them measures to comply with. Now, one measure is for them to train their drivers, put them into classroom. Every driver must go through a classroom training. We must give them measures with regards to how they should drive. On the way, the standard one is about speeding. There are speed limits. Whoever we find us not complying with our rules and regulations, everybody will see you, will name and shame you. But at the same time, it will also communicate to the passengers or general public not to also participate or patronize your services.
So we'll deal with this issue shortly, but we need to stay also in the transport sector. Transport fares are likely to go up by some 20% in the next 24 hours. That's what we're learning. This is according to the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, which explains that its decision is due to the hike in prices of fuel over the last few months. GPRTU has been fighting government in recent times over the failure of the Transport Ministry to facilitate the reduction of some tax measures, which is negatively affecting the cost build-up. Due to this, prices are expected to go up in less than 24 hours. So let's deal with all of the issues comprehensively. Joining us now is Samuel Amwa, National Communications Team member of GPRTU. Samuel, it's not a good time to be talking to you, I must confess, because it means that we're going to be paying more at just a critical time where we've seen a 15% hike in transport fares. Why this time around?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to say good evening to all your cherished viewers. Yes, the thing is, we have decided to increase the transport fares by 20%, effect from tomorrow on the 7th of May 2022. The reason being that by the time the government gave us the 15% increment, by then the fuel price was about 7.99 Ghana cedis per litre. And the agreement between the operators and the government was that should the petroleum product goes up to 10% threshold, then we also have the opportunity or the chance to also call for an upward adjustment of the transport fares. Looking at where the petroleum product was and looking at where it is now, it has been increased about 45 to 50% as of now. And that was what we wrote to the Transport Ministry, that the agreement that we had, that any time the fuel prices goes up to 10%, we also have to come out with a transport fare increment. So from that time, we decided that we want to increase the lorry fares. But then we had a call, and what they told us was that government is working on it to reduce the petroleum product and that we should hold on. We have been holding on for all this while till the president came out last May Day that there is no way they can reduce the petroleum product. And should they reduce it, the state is going to lose about 4 billion Ghana cedis. So this news came to us, and then we also came to a round table, and we find out that there is nothing they can do about the reducing the petroleum product. That is why we also organized ourselves, did our calculations, and now we say from tomorrow, effect from tomorrow, we are coming out with 20% upward adjustment of our transport fares.
The timing for some in terms of your announcement of an increment in transport fares is not helpful, particularly when Ghanaians are having to deal with a surge in food prices and other commodities as well. Are you not mindful of all of these factors as you push for a further increment in less than 24 hours?
Yes, we are mindful of that. That is the main reason why we have been holding on for all this while. This increment should have come, long ago. And because of all this economic hardship, that is why we have been holding on till this time, thinking the government can also adjust, or thinking the government can also sacrifice by reducing some of the taxes or by reducing the fuel price. The business that we run, the petroleum product is the major component that we use to run our business. Talking of the spare parts and talking of lubricants and other components that we use, they have all gone up. Now go to stations and go and check what is happening there. Drivers come to work, they work. At the close of the day, all the monies they get, they take all the monies to the filling station and use all to buy fuel. They cannot even meet their sales. Countless, when you visit workshops, you see vehicles being parked there. Countless don't have money to buy the spare parts to repair their cars and all that. So we have come to understand that if we don't come out with an increment, then meaning the business is collapsing. And
but the same way you're feeling, is the same thing an average Ghanaian out there will be feeling. I mean, there's generally inflation, so why not hold on a bit? Just as we know, the 15% increment you did has not spanned, say, 2 or 3 months. So why not give us some more time just to adjust ourselves to this price increment that we're about seeing?
My brother, giving more time, I think it will come to a time you go to a lorry station and you don't even find one vehicle there, just because when they work, they won't get the money. You see, each and every person work for a profit. And until when should a driver work and sacrifice his money? Drivers has been sacrificing for all this while. Let me draw you a little back. You remember during the COVID era, we were asked to reduce our passengers by 111, okay? Even by then, we were asking the government to even increase our lorry fares or to reduce the petrol product. They didn't do that. Even as of that time, we were still paying the same insurances that we pay. We were still paying the DBLA taxes and that we were paying. Even during those era, some monies were given to some institutions, but drivers, nobody mind any driver to make sure to see that, drivers too, we serve the country and we are playing a major role in the development of the country.
So what do you mean by that? You're paying us back? You're paying us back? That's what you're telling us? So it's payback time, right?
No, it's not for payback time. But what we are saying is the duty of the government to sacrifice for the nation. So if the government refuses to sacrifice for the nation, why is it that an ordinary driver should sacrifice for the nation? That is the point. The government is saying that if he reduces the petroleum product, he is going to lose about 4 billion Ghana cedis. But we, the drivers, we should maintain our fares by buying the petroleum product at a higher cost. What is going to be or what is going to happen in our various homes? This is the same business we do to take our children to schools. This is the same business we do to rent. You see, nowadays, go to other stations and check. There are drivers who can't even pay for their rent. There are drivers who can't even afford for even a daily chop money in their house, just because they work and at the close of the day, they will send all the money to the petrol pump and they use it to buy fuel. Companies are taking their cars from drivers. You see it? So that's why I'm saying it's not something like we are doing a payback time.
Yeah.
But it's a reality.
But I mean, Samuel, to be fair, in terms of the trajectory and the trend of increment, at some point we saw a reduction in the fuel prices. Even you didn't reduce your fares at the time, and the belief is you could make up for that time by holding on a bit with the new increment that you want to put across.
Thank you very much. Let me draw. Let me explain something to you. You see, we have a certain percentage that anytime we hit that percentage, then there is the possibility for us to also increase our lorry fares. And let's take it for instance. If the government has increased it, like maybe the government has increased it about 45% or something, and we have come out with an increment, and should the government come out to say, I am reducing it by maybe 2% or 1% or 3%, it's not possible. It may affect the transport fare, the reduction of the transport fares. But that is why we are saying, you see, by the time they increase up to the 10%, we were even supposed to increase the fares by then. But we didn't do that. We didn't do that, waiting that maybe they can be able to do something about it. Are you getting me? So the transport system in Ghana now, in fact, seriously, it's going down. It's going down. And drivers are suffering, seriously. You see, every day there's something that I used to say. You see, drivers, the role that we play in the country, like what, anytime we complain or we come out with some things, the government has to take it serious. But we have come to understand that the government don't take it serious. You understand?
We're talking about the tax remedial measures that you are asking for in terms of some of the price build-up. But first of all, help us understand this, the implication, the real cost implication for an average commuter out there. If it is the case that you're doing a 20% increment, are you saying that cumulatively, knowing that there's been a 15% increment already, or you are doing an all new 20%. So for instance, if I'm moving from point A to B and it will cost me a cedi, are you then saying that completely that will now cost me, say, 1 cedi 20 pesos? Just give us the specifics so we are able to get a picture of what the implication will be.
All right, thank you very much. Let me use Ashaiman as an example because that is where my station is. Ashaiman, previously or currently, as at today, when you pick a trotro from Ashaiman to Temakomti 1, the amount you pay is 3 cedi 70 pesos. 3 cedi 70 pesos. And now the 20% of the 3 cedi 70 pesos is likely to jump up to about 4 cedi 50 pesos. I hope you are getting
but that's not fair. Is that fair? Because you just did a 15% increment. You're doing a completely new 20% increment. That's what you're doing now.
We are doing new 20% increment because by the time we were giving the 15%, by then the petroleum product was 7 cedis 99 pesos at the pump.
But Sami, no, I mean what you should have added was supposed to be the 5%, which government didn't really agree with you on.
No, my brother, listen. See, now the fuel has been increased about 45%. About 45%. And even by the time the petroleum product got to 8.4, we should have called for an upward adjustment of petroleum product, transport fares. But we didn't do that. So now, from where it was and where it is now, that is why we are coming out with the 20%. Not that we are adding, something to the 15, making it 20. No, that is not what we are talking about.
Okay, help us understand this. What will help reduce, at least marginally, the price build-up? Earlier, you were calling for some measures in terms of a tax rebate, if government would either cut down on the taxes or perhaps grant you some tax relief. That's the initial demand you were making. Have you changed that position, or you're still going by that?
We've never changed that position. You see, ourselves as transporters, anytime lorry fares have been increased, it affects our businesses because the patronization goes down. That is why we were saying that the government should see to it that some of the taxes that we think now is nuisance, they should reduce or to scrap those taxes. A tax like price stabilization and recovery levy, we have been paying these taxes, and the reason of paying those taxes is to use that money to cushion the petroleum product whenever it goes high. But that money is lying somewhere, whether it's being used or not. They are not using the money for the right purpose. Talking about energy sector levy, or what we call the toll levy, we have been paying this debt for all this while. We've not even seen a single time the government has come out to tell us that the debt was this amount, and we have paid up to this amount, and we have left with this amount to be paid. All these things, talking about pollution and sanitation and polluting levy, this sanitation issue that they are talking about, let me put it straight away, is boiler levy. Go to home or other homes. People, put their boiler and they pay fees. Why is it that they should put it on a petroleum product for us to go and buy and pay taxes on it again? There are so many taxes that we think the government can be able to sacrifice with those taxes. We are the taxpayers. So if take those money to help us, and now we are saying the payers are saying that it's a hard time.
Sami, so it's a guarantee. Sami, it's a guarantee that once government changes at least the figures in terms of how much they're charging you with these tax measures, you would significantly reduce the prices. Is that what you're telling us?
Exactly. That is all we are calling for. That is why even December 6th, we call for this sit-down strike. All that we were saying is the government should reduce those taxes. So should government come out today and say, oh, I am reducing the taxes? Yes, we have no option than to quickly, reduce our transport fares.
Okay, finally,
right.
Finally, the concern is you may not have more customers patronizing your services. Are you mindful of this as well? Because obviously the cost is going up.
Yes. You see, it will reduce the number of passengers that we pick. But it will sound like those that I'll get to pick, the amount of money that I'll charge them, if I send them and I bring them back, I'll calculate and get some amount of money to buy the fuel. It will not sound like I'll take less and go more trips, use all the money to go and buy fuel. I hope you are getting the scenario.
Right.
So that is how it is. We know very well that increasing the lorry fares, brings the patronization down. But it will also help us not to use all our monies to buy fuel. So that is how it is.
So it may indeed affect your activities, you agree?
Yeah, it may affect our activities, seriously. Seriously. It will affect us, seriously. That is why we are still calling for the government to look, to just take a critical look, to take a second look at, all these things and try and do something about those taxes so that we will all be a bit released in the country.
Okay, so are you working together, and let's just get some clarity here. Are you working together with the umbrella body, the Coalition of Transport Unions? Because I understand that was the group that went into the negotiations with government. At some point, there were divergent views. Some of the concerned drivers were of the opinion that we're increasing prices by some 30%. You said 15%. Now there's a 20%. Are all of these groups going to add the 20% to their price build-up?
Exactly. We are communicating with all of them. And that umbrella is still there. We are all under
but that
umbrella.
would mean that there'll be uneven charges, because already some of them have charged 30%. At the time you were charging 15%. So now if you're placing a 20% flat rate on all of the prices, that will definitely mean that some prices may go up than the others.
Yeah, that is what we are saying. You see, GPRT, we are the larger group. And that is why we are saying that anytime we come out with something, they should try and embrace it so that we all work with us. We all work with it. Because if those that, when we were giving the 15%, those that they were charging high, definitely if they say they want to increase it by that 20%, it's going to affect them. That quite recently, we called for a meeting and we were talking to the other, unions, their executives, to make sure that anytime we come out with something of this nature, they should all embrace it and make sure we all dance to one tune so that we bring sanity on our roads.
Yeah, but this is an opportune moment for you to do that. At least talk to them to try and revise their prices, because what we may have is that some may be charging more than the approved rates that you would be issuing out there.
Exactly. By the time this information came out, we are immediately calling all the coalition members to just meet and talk to them and make sure that the appropriate fares will be taken at all the various stations and unions.
Okay. Well, one more time, give us a sense of some of the areas and what the cost build-up is likely to be looking like.
Okay. Let me put it this way. Wherever you are and the previous amount or the previous fare that you were paying, just calculate it by 20%. That is 20% times your previous amount that you were paying. You get that the current charge that you want. That is why I use Ashama as an example. And that is why I use Ashama as an example. So
yeah.
Wherever you are.
Yeah, so give us some more then.
Yes, so wherever you are, in case maybe you are operating from maybe Accra to Kumasi, and you are paying maybe let's take it 50 cedis. Let's take it maybe 50 cedis.
Right.
Yeah, if you are paying 50 cedis, then it's likely you are going to pay about 60 cedis. You are going to pay 60 cedis. There's going to be 20% adding to your previous amount that you were paying. Actually, quickly, we have given this work to a committee that they are working on it. But before the close of the days, we had a platform who circulate all this information.
Right. So you'll be putting out the official rates. You mean
exactly?
Right.
Exactly. Is that we have given it to a committee. They are working on it. Before the close of the day, it will go to all our various platforms, and we'll make sure that all the branches nationwide will go strictly by this directive.
Okay, then let's hear from Emmanuel Yeboah. Samuel, thank you for your time. Emmanuel Yeboah is the General Secretary for the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council. Obviously, they are also monitoring what's happening now. Emmanuel, thank you so much for your time. So prices are likely to go up in less than 24 hours. This is not great news. I don't know for you.
Hello.
Yes. Yes. Emmanuel. So we're hearing of the 20% increment. How is this coming to you as the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. In fact, I'm alien to any information as to the 20% also increase that you are mentioning. Because as a practice, whatever we decide to increase fuel, whatever there's a fuel increase, corresponding transport fare increase, the operators, that is the DPIT and the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, will meet together with the Minister of Transport to set the motion for discussion and agree on the percentage increase. But as I speak to you, there's no meeting of that data. So for anybody to come out with a definite statement, we are going to increase on this percentage at this time. I don't know how to speak.
But this is your word against theirs. They are the service providers, so obviously we'll take them serious when they say we're increasing the prices.
They are doing what?
They are providing the services, so obviously they would charge.
No problem. Nobody is disputing that. All of us provide services. But what I'm saying is that there's a convention that has been developed over the years. And I don't know why we have to depart from it this time around. I don't know what is so special that we have to depart from the convention over the years.
Right. And we know that some negotiations commenced earlier. Why is it that we didn't get any report on what the negotiations were and what the outcomes were going to be?
So if you can raise up your voice.
Yes, I was talking about the negotiations. I was talking about the negotiations that we're hearing of earlier. You commenced engagements with a coalition of transport unions. That conversation happened, but we didn't see the outcome. We didn't hear from the groups as well involved.
We started negotiating with who?
I was talking about the earlier negotiations. There was a 15% increment. Then there was another negotiations for an upward adjustment again. That's the meeting or negotiation I'm talking about.
Now, what I'm saying is that it's a practice we have done over not only the 15% increase. This is something we've been doing for the past years. Okay, so it's not as if it's a new thing that we are introducing. So, and I'm saying the convention is that whenever there's a need for us to discuss anything like that, we do that in collaboration with the DPIT and the Minister of Transport, and sometimes Consumer Protection Agency. These are the group that we deal with primarily. So if anybody is saying there has been a meeting somewhere else, and for that matter, the decision has been made, well, I don't know, but I cannot speak to that decision. But as far as we are concerned from the council, there hasn't any decision like that.
So are you urging the public to disregard the directive or the announcement?
I'm doing what?
Are you urging the public to disregard the notice we're receiving from GPRT?
That is not for me to say. I've given you the background, the ground rules. So if you have not gone through that ground rules, anybody wants to go ahead to increase fare, I don't know the instruction he has. But as far as we are concerned as a council, we haven't met with the GPIT, we haven't met with the Ministry of Transport. And I say it's a long-standing tradition that we don't want to depart from it.
Okay then. We'll see.
So we wait till we meet them. The letter was sent to them, at least I remember we sent the letter to them earlier on, and we couldn't have a meeting. So we sent a reminder to them last, I think today is Friday, and on Wednesday, we sent a reminder to them. I've had a notification from the minister, the chief director, that the minister is not available. So he speak to me at close of the day and give me a definite day for a meeting. So until that is done, we don't know how we can come out and say we're increasing 10% or 5% or whatever.
So you are talking about next Wednesday, right?
I'm talking about. I sent the letter to you.
Are you talking about next Wednesday?
No, just listen to me.
Right.
I said we sent a letter earlier on. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the meeting, so we sent a reminder to that letter, and I sent it last Wednesday, 2 days ago.
Yeah. So.
You get me?
Your line is a bit faint, but what you're trying to say is that the meeting should have happened this Wednesday, right?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, that's better now. Yes, you're talking about.
What I'm saying is that we sent a letter earlier on when the price was increased to the region of about 10 cedi a liter.
Right.
And we're supposed to meet, and there was some few challenges between the operators and the ministers themselves, so we couldn't meet. So I sent a reminder last Wednesday, that's about 2 days ago, to them, to the effect that there's a time for us, the need for us to meet to and discuss the issue around the fare increase. So the chief director gave me a signal this afternoon that the minister is not available, and he will get back to me that by the close of the day today, the definite day we can meet by next week. Today is Friday, so definitely, if there will be any meeting, to be on between Monday and thereabout.
Okay, but we'll see how that will go. In the meantime, the prices will go up as they've told us. So are you not worried that perhaps your intervention may come very late in time?
Where my intervention becomes late in what sense?
Particularly as we know that it's taking effect in the next 24 hours. So if the meeting will happen next week,
whoever is doing anything on the contrary is flouting the rules of the game.
Which law precisely?
I'm not law. I'm just flouting the rules of the game.
Which game precisely?
Were you listening to me when I was talking to you earlier?
Yes, but you were talking about a convention, and this is a union that, as I was indicating to you, that has the right to provide a service and charge.
So that's what I said earlier on, that if nothing has changed, then why are we departing from a convention that has worked for us over the year?
Okay. We'll see about the meeting that you'd be holding, but we're grateful that you've been able to talk to us, Ohini Yeboah. Thank you so much. This is The Pulse. We return shortly after this break. And you're welcome back. The Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, GIBA, is pushing for the speedy passage of the broadcasting bill as it argues that the proposed legislation is critical in ensuring the safety of journalists across the country. The latest press freedom ranking by Reporters Without Borders downgraded Ghana by some 30 points on the league table for 180 countries. Well, the government has been responding to the findings and its official response and findings to the latest ranking. It says that it will be working together with media houses to address the poor economic conditions of journalists across the country. And excerpts of that is what's on your screens now, also indicating the fact that the government will be collaborating with stakeholders in the fight against disinformation. Well, I caught up today with the president of the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, GIBA, Cecil Sonkwa Mills, who says the passage of the broadcasting bill must be expedited to address the key findings in the latest press freedom report. On the issue of the economic challenges, the GIBA is actually saying that NCA must be stringent with the issuance of radio and TV licenses.
Yeah, on the ranking, our position is actually more of a forward-looking position. Of course, the drop was quite drastic. We took the report and we studied the structure, and we tried to pinpoint exactly what were the causes. Yes, there's a new questionnaire, it's been restructured, etc. But there were two areas of concern, which had to do with mainly the economic, and then also the safety and fiscal and mental safety of journalists. With the economic, I think we have been mentioning Ghana has certain unique things. I remember there was a comparison with other countries, but we look uniquely at Ghana. First of all, we have a specific size of advertising revenue, which forms the basic source of revenue for a lot of broadcasting entities in this country. If you look at Ghana, the situation of Ghana, we have almost 500 radio stations, and we have about 141 as per the NCA. And I'm not even talking about those on who are completely doing the internet-based and or online, but they are not here, of course. So you find that we already have been in a revenue squeeze here, where we have a large number of entities. Comparatively, if you compare that across a lot of countries, we may be the largest in Africa and maybe in a lot more countries. This is one of the first things that we should look at. So, I mean, the focus for us is how do we get stations to continue to generate revenue within the same little box. I don't know how we got here, and we have so many stations, but we all have to live in the box. Our constitution allows that to happen, but economically, it is beginning to bite us a lot. We know there are stations that some people go 6 to 8 months without salary, and this can lead to a bit of vulnerability and it can even lead to the kind of quality of the journalism and the output of content that comes up. So it's something that we need to set up and look at how we do. We're not saying we should reduce it, but within the situation that we are in, which is not a great one, how can we continue to enhance revenue for stations?
The concern is, in the report, journalists are not being paid well. Is it necessarily because of the numbers, the figures that you are pointing to?
If you do a general school of economics, okay, we'll tell you that if you have a specific size of advertising revenue, which is the main thing, okay, and you suddenly you quadruple or you let the numbers go 10 times, you have a lot more people struggling to be contained within the same space. Funnily, there's an option of online, but the skill level and the issues of that is quite novel. So we now need to explore and look at, are there more innovative ways that we can generate revenue? And the other thing we've also done, which also overlaps into safety and quality, to deal with disinformation and misinformation, is that there's a lot more training required, because with a large number, we've seen that there are a lot of people in the industry who actually are not trained as journalists. So what we need to do is to enforce and make sure that there's a lot of training to cover people who are in the industry, and then they understand the other thing we actually have to look at is also how to enhance the commercial ability. There are some the NCA has when you submit for licensing, etc., you're supposed to have a business plan. So we expect that we look more at the business plans that entities or people who have applied for frequencies, and they had a plan. And we must follow up to find out that.
I was just about to come to that, because there are two issues. Should we be looking at rationalization of the frequencies that we have? And also there's the talk about partisan ownership, which the press report talks about. Is this the time for the NCA to do a background check, and also, as you're pointing out, the business plan of all these new radio stations and TV stations that are?
I will speak about the business plan, which I think it's important that when somebody goes, business plan may not be cast in stone, but if there's a follow-up and a molding of it, it could enhance the situation of remuneration for journalists. Maybe even it could change the tax structure for the industry because of the challenges. But with the other one, in terms of ownership, there actually is no clear law that restricts anybody. You may be affiliated or not to a political party, but nothing stops you from going into the business of broadcasting. So with that, there's not too much to say, even though we know that it has an impact on quality, on some of the issues that have come up. But one of the things that, in fact, there were two things that we spoke about during the flag raising ceremony. One is the broadcasting bill. The broadcasting bill has input from broadcasters, the draft bill. We recently have given some input in that. There are a number of things which has to do with the ethics of broadcasting, which kind of binds us and pushes the domain a lot more into self-regulation. Okay, and they are fairly accurate things there. So anybody who comes within the fold, be it you belong to GIBA or you're not part of GIBA, once you're broadcasting within the confines of our country, then those things can at least guide you in what you do. And then the quality, the issue of disinformation, misinformation, fake news, we'll see some decline. The other thing is the policy for the safety of journalists, which we're trying to do. Yes, we've made quite some strides in the area of the RTI, and we can see offices are being opened. But we also need to look at this policy and let it come into being. If we have these three blocks in place, and then the engagement with state actors and non-state actors. I think it will be a direction. But for me, and forget about the report, actually gives us, it's a new start for us to look at and then move forward with.
So finally, should the NNC revise its licensing change?
I think based on this, what I think is that there are some good things that are required when you're doing licensing. But I think we need to do a follow-up on some of the items. And I did mention that there's a business plan. You would ask that why do you actually add a business plan when you apply for a license if there will be no follow-up to see if it works? So I think there are good things in the current structure, but there's a follow-up that is needed. Not that when you cross the line and then that's it, they let you go.
Now, the Deputy Foreign Minister, Kweku Amprachum Sapong, has lamented the rising insurgency in West Africa. He detailed that the occurrence of coups which hinders peace and stability and economic development of the sub-region must be tackled heads-on. He therefore called on stakeholders of the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, to map out strategies not only targeted at finding solutions to the coup incidents, but also to prevent it from recurring. He was speaking at a sensitization workshop on ECOWAS protocols in the Volta regional capital, Ho.
The ECOWAS sensitization workshop brought together key stakeholders, civil society organizations, public servants, media personnel and students. The workshop was to enlighten participants on the operatives, protocols and objectives of ECOWAS. The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Achibodi Aolecha, underscored efforts made by ECOWAS towards achieving regional integration.
Indeed, for about 47 years, the objectives of ECOWAS have not been fully achieved. That notwithstanding, some appreciable level of effort have been made to create a borderless sub-region to enhance free trade and movement of people. Therefore, as a sub-regional organization with the main aim of promoting economic cooperation among member states in order to raise the living standards and promote economic development, ECOWAS has protocols and conventions which each sovereign member states ratified and adopted. Consequently, there is a need for each member state to adhere to the protocols and conventions.
The Deputy Foreign Minister, Kweku Amprachum Sapong, emphasized the need for stakeholders to be concerned about the insurgency in the sub-region.
Regional integration is not just an economic issue. Following widespread conflict and instability in the sub-region in the 90s and early 2000s, ECOWAS leaders came to the realization that economic prosperity cannot be achieved in the absence of peace and security. That is to say that regional integration was found to be intricately and extricately woven into the fabric of peace and security other than just the economic issue. So it's against this backdrop that the coup situation in the region is a vital topic of discussion during this workshop. In this two-day workshop, we hope to explore issues related to conflict development, the recent upset of coup d'etats, and its impact on the sub-region, as well as the role ECOWAS plays in conflict management, reconstruction, and peace building in West Africa. Being fully aware that economic development cannot be achieved in the absence of peace and security, conflict in our backyard should concern us and motivate us not only to find solutions, but also to prevent its spread.
He, however, indicated that, irrespective of achieving great strides, some ECOWAS member states have created artificial barriers curtailing the success of the regional integration objective.
I produce the things in Ghana. I am free and at liberty to sell in any of the West African countries. And they are doing, they are producing in their countries and they are bringing them here. But when we are taking them there is wahala. This one is nobody's creation. It's our own who are creating it. We've opened our border, and I'm sure the United States and the police have not. They haven't. Now, you see, where is the problem? It is not to do with the fact that ECOWAS is what is making it difficult. It is our own government who, at a point in time, will create all these artificial barriers and artificial problems and artificial confusion.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Oh.
Now, a storm has ripped off the roofing of a giant block of the Bishop Herman College in the Pando municipality of the Volta region. The dome section of the first floor of the structure was ripped off by the Wednesday storm, hereby worsening the infrastructure challenge of the school. There's more in the following report.
The giant block is one of the oldest structures on the Bishop Herman campus in Pando. The structure houses dorms, a library, and a bookstore. Unfortunately, the structure, which accommodates the majority of students, had its roofs ripped off by a storm on Wednesday. This is the second time in about 8 months the already dilapidated structure has had its roof ripped off after it was re-roofed. Francis Dominic Kofi Kudolo is the headmaster of Bishop Herman College.
This is one of our dormitory blocks. It is the biggest on campus. It can accommodate about 500 students. Yesterday, a rainstorm ripped off part of the roof. Last year, the same thing happened. Part of it was ripped off. We made reports to our officials. Unfortunately, nothing was done about it. Yesterday, the situation got worse by the rainstorm. At this time, the whole roof has been lifted and part of it was blown onto the floor. So all we can do is to relocate the students, which we have started doing. But that is also compounding the already existing congestion problems in the other dormitories, because this houses majority of the students. So we have to distribute all these students amongst the other dormitories, which are smaller, and so the congestion is getting worse.
He explained that the structure, which has suffered several defects, was awarded for rehabilitation. However, the contractor abandoned the project due to a lack of funds.
The block itself was awarded for renovation, or awarded for contract to one Will Elick Limited. Unfortunately, he re-roofed the building and then erected some 2 staircases and then left site. When I consulted him, he said there is no money. He has not been paid for work done so far and money has not been allocated for the work. So he left site. So we reported to Get Fund, which is the awarding institution, hoping that they will quickly organize something for the contractor to come back to site. But unfortunately, nothing was done about it.
The Pando Municipal Chief Executive, Geoffrey Kojo Badasu, had this to say after assessing the extent of damage.
I was informed this morning of the disaster that occurred at Bishop Herman yesterday as a result of the downpour. I visited the school with my NABMO team, and I realized that the situation is quite disturbing, and the school as it stands now needs urgent intervention.
The school's management is appealing for support to undertake the rehabilitation of the giant block to ensure the safety of students and enhance academic work. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Pando.
And you're welcome back. Authorities at the Kintampo Senior High School in the Bono East region are appealing to government to help in the completion of abandoned projects in the school to enhance academic work. Headmaster of the school, Samuel Kweku Doninya, made this appeal during a heavily attended debate to climax the 50th anniversary celebration of the school. Correspondent Anna Sabit was there and now.
A grand debate to climax the 50th anniversary celebrations of the Kintampo Senior High School has been held with a call on authorities to help improve the school's infrastructure, which, according to the students, is affecting academic activities.
Kintampo Senior High School faces many difficulties, which reduces academic performance. First, I would love to talk about lack of furniture in our school. Most students, when it's time for dining, when they go, unless they enter batch by batch, until all of them get food to eat, which reduces academic performance. It makes most students go to class late. And also, we lack dormitories. Our dormitories are inadequate. Lack of dormitories have made girls very few in the school. And also, lack of beds too. Most students, especially the fun ones who just reported, lie on the floor.
As you can see, in this world, everything is about computer. So how can a student be in school without studying ICT? So I'm pleading on the government that they should come to our aid to help Kintampo Senior High to build and equip computerized laboratory to help the academic work of Kintampo Senior High School.
Headmaster of the school, Samuel Kwekudumina, disclosed that authorities of the school have been forced to convert a master's bungalow into a girls' dormitory to help manage the school's accommodation challenges. This he attributes to the slow pace of projects under construction within the school.
We have several challenges in the school. Notably, one among them is the road network. Very, very, very poor. You have seen it for yourselves. We again have challenges with girls' dormitory. As at now, we have converted one master's bungalow that was supposed to be for the assistant headmaster domestic. We have converted to girls' dormitory. We hope people will come and support us. We have some projects that are ongoing, but at a very snail pace.
He appealed to stakeholders in the education sector to come to the aid of the school to help solve these challenges.
We are praying that Get Fund, government and all people who are in charge will help us fix it so that the student would have a bit of comfort as they learn for the betterment of their future and Ghana at large.
Guest speaker and former student of the school, lawyer Samuel Boache, called on the student body to contribute their quota towards building their futures by taking their lessons seriously.
Dear students, you must learn, do your class assignment, research, do homework, write examinations, attend classes, participate in class and school activities fully, and also take part in extracurriculum activities. The word you must watch is that a little learning is a dangerous thing. Dear students, get a role model. Student, target somebody. Target somebody and said, I would like to be like this man. A good person, of course.
Anna Sabit, JoyNews, Kintampo.
Now, students of Nursing Training College who are bearing the brunt of lack of hostel facilities at the college. Principal of the college, Dr. George Yaosing-Tome, disclosed this to that students on a daily basis walked a maximum of 12 kilometers to attend lectures and also walk back to their hostel, a situation which is also affecting their security. This situation, according to him, needs immediate attention. There's more in this following report.
Though Nursing Training College has moved from its foundation borrowed campus at the Wa Municipal Hospital, where they used to hold classes at the hospital's canteen, to a campus of their own at Kwerhi, they still have myriad of challenges to deal with. Speaking at the college's matriculation of 227 first students, Principal of the college, Dr. George Yaosing-Tome, commended various stakeholders, including government, board members of the college, and the landlords at Kwerhi for the significant development brought to the college. He however considered that there are still more assignments on their hands to complete.
Suffice it to say, we still have assignments on our hands. These include the provision of hostels for the students, gatehouse for the college, street light connections from Percy to the college, and in-campus road network shaping and asphalting.
Throwing more light on the issue, he noted that the college for now has no hostel facility of their own, forcing students to on a daily basis walk for 10 kilometers to attend lectures and back to their private hostels.
Kilometers I'm talking about is a big worry. 5 kilometers to the school,
And the west is about 12 kilometers that the students will have to commute. And that is not palatable at all. I think we should take a serious look at this issue. Our student population is not that big. And I'm inviting everybody to come into this particular situation and see how we can, make a difference. This will go a long way to help them to study harder. We are doing well in terms of academic and professional, laurels. We can do greater if the hostel facilities are sited in campus.
Despite the challenges, Dr. Yossi Tome revealed that plans are afoot to mount a new program at the school and needs the support of all stakeholders. Upper West Regional Minister, in a speech read on his behalf by the Chief Director of the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council, Peter M. Mala, lamented about the refusal of nurses to accept postings to rural areas where the services are needed most and call on them to change their ways.
The few health professionals who accept postings to these areas end up working more hours than they should due to lack of staff, and this impacts negatively on the health service delivery system. I would like to use this occasion to appeal to our nurses to see postings to rural communities as a call to service and not as a punishment. Madam Chair,
the college's population over the years has been spiraling, which requires that adequate steps are taken to fix them. Some students share their frustrations on the challenges and want duty bearers to come to their aid.
And there are no street lights in the campus, which in the nights we can't come then study. And also the hostel where we stay and then come to campus is very far, which is making us reporting on school late, which is not good for us as students.
Well, it's very scary because no street lights on the streets, and even if we are having entertainment, but we have to risk our own lives from Perisi to this place. And then there are even instances where people were being trapped armed robbers on the way some time back. So it's really a very risky thing for us. So if you can help us out, we'll be very grateful.
We pay a lot of fees in this particular institution, so that weakens our parents. But so I think with the allowance, some of us had the hope that even after we come, with the aid of the allowance, we'll be able to purchase our handouts. We are going for clinicals, we'll be able to rent places and also even get something to eat. But we've all been hearing it will come, just promise and fail, promise and fail. So it is even making us frustrated, and some of us are even losing hope in it because we thought with the aid of allowance we'll be able to pay our school fees and pay for like other important accessories.
The challenges, according to the students and the principal of the college, are enormous. But one thing is key, which they will prefer to work on as quickly as possible, which has to do with the hostel facility for the college. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Peri.
And now, Adisadel College has been crowned as Central Regional Champions of the APSA National Science and Maths Quiz Regional Championship after a heated final last night. Wesley Girls in Fansipim School and Holy Child were eliminated at the early stages of the competition. At the end of the finals, Adisadel College had 52 points, St. Augustine's College had 41, University Practice had 37 points, and the Ghana National College trailing with some 23 points. Maxwell Agbagba has the rest of the story from Cape Coast.
All hail the 2022 Central Region Champions of the APSA Science and Maths Quiz Regional Championship at Adisadel College.
New champions of the Central Region APSA Science and Maths Quiz Championship. It's all excitement here at the Center for National Culture. These joint students cannot control the excitement. They beat St. Augustine's College. They also beat Ghana National College to lift the trophy as the 2022 Central Region Champions. This is what it is And this is the moment of pride for all of them.
Play up, Santa Claus. Play up and play that game. Give nothing but your best, and never take off rest. Play up for them.
Adesado College fought hard to get this, winning their first contest with a 22 points gap. It was a close contest throughout the first 3 rounds in the finals, until the 4th round when it became clear it was going to be Adesco's day. The contestants say they are determined to win the national glory for their school.
It's been a while and we are really excited because since I think 2015 we haven't won the regional championship and that I'm really excited, overwhelmed for this opportunity for winning it. Yeah.
Do you think that you are going to win?
Yeah, we have confidence in ourselves by God's grace because the fact that the teachers told us that we will win, then with that faith we had in ourselves, we knew we'll make it today.
Okay. What should we expect in the national championship?
Just the best from us.
What was it like? Beating all these schools?
I'll just say it's by grace. Like, it's nothing of our own doing. It's just God or Allah doing everything for us.
Adisco be the first, Agasco be the second.
For the current and old students, their joy had no limits.
No size! No size!
Yeah, we are very excited because we came here with them, we came with Christ, and now we have won. And so we are giving all the glory to God. We thank God for this. And we came with very good quiz boys. You see, last year we came with quiz boys, but they were good. But at a certain point in time, we were evicted. But now, by the grace of God, we've come with very good students, and we are going to win. And it's all because of God. Up center. The same way we've won here, the same way we've prevailed over the rest. Yes, we know we are going to prevail over the rest. You understand? And so we are going to win that one too. On God. It's God.
All I want to say is, you can never rule a disco out. Never rule a disco out. Never rule them out. The reason why they are supporting us.
Wesley girls in the 2021 national competition made it to the semi-finals, but suffered elimination at the early stages of the regional championship this year. In contest 2, University Practice SHS had 51 points, Assin State College 22 points, Holy Child School 22 points, and Wesley Girls High School 17 points. Quiz mistress Dr. Telma Ohinia G of the University of Ghana School of Pharmacy is not happy with the performance of the girls' schools.
Every school puts up their best, so I was very impressed with the regional qualifiers. Unfortunately, a lot of the girls' schools fell out, but yeah. But with
your school fell out?
Yeah, my school fell out, sadly. I mean, I still can't get my head around how that happened. Like, 17 points, I don't think it's ever even happened in the history. Yeah, but...
What do you think could be wrong with the girls' schools? So every year we keep talking about this.
Exactly. But especially with this particular year, and I spoke to the girls from Wesley Girls, and I don't think they are that prepared. They claim the regionals happen a bit early before they are prepared. So they say they will do better in the nationals because they would have had time to prepare. But yeah, we still haven't, we don't have that thing. We don't know what's happening with the girls' schools. And today, particularly with the Holy Child and Wesley Girls competition, I noted in particular it was an issue of speed. Because every single time Wesley Girls rang their bell, they were second to have rang their bell. And even if we always say that even if you know the answer and you don't have speed, you can't, yeah. So I think it's still a matter of the speed. Or I don't know if it's also that bit of confidence push to that daring thing. I think the boys would always do risk it. But it seems the girls don't have that yet. But I think the championship especially, it's fantastic. I couldn't believe at the end of first round, it was just a point difference. And then in the second round, it wasn't even very clear because Adisco and Ogasco were still head-on. And then, of course, the true or false separated the men from the boys. So fantastic. I think Adisco deserved it.
My name is Cyril Nai, Head Communication and Sponsorship. So it's part of our commitment to partner the right key stakeholders to create the right interest in STEM education among young people. Because if you look at our future world of work, science and maths, the STEM subjects play a very key and crucial role in that. And as a nation, we need that to ramp up our development and to ensure that we have a brighter future for our young people. Because sitting up there and answering all those questions is not a joke. And for us, it speaks to our brand attributes of being brave and passionate and ready. And we see that a lot in a lot of the young people coming up there. And for us, it's exciting because it also expresses our Africanity spirit.
And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We'll return shortly after this break.